Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the special meeting for the Board of Supervisors for Calaveras County. We'll start by the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you for coming, ladies and gentlemen. We'll start with announcements. Any announcements from the Board of Supervisors or staff? Seeing none, we'll go right into public comment. Madam Clerk.
Any item of interest to the public that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board and is not posted on the consent or regular agendas may be addressed during the public comment period. California law prohibits the board from taking action on any matter which is not posted on the agenda unless it is determined to be an emergency by the Board of Supervisors. If public comment is completed before the 30-minute allotted time period, the board may immediately move to the next order of business. If public comment is not completed during the allotted time period, it will be continued as the last item of business in order to provide an opportunity for the remainder of the comments to be heard.
Good morning. My name's Carl Stoughton. I'm using my name these days because I was in the hall the other day and a lady who I had no idea who she was came up to me and used my name, and I thought, well, everybody knows now. And I have business before the county as well, for the Planning Commission, in fact. And because of that, it is public knowledge when you do have business before and it should be before the county. I would like to, Mr. Clapp, I gave you a sign this morning. Would you please show the people what it is? I watch all these meetings, and occasionally the mistake is made, and I email it in, and they're minor mistakes. You guys are just really so good at this. You have a natural capacity, Chair, for this job, and I appreciate the work that everybody's doing, in fact. Last night I was going to bake you some chocolate chip cookies. I was so pleased with the way you guys are handling the situations. But I was out of brown sugar. But I did get a package of jelly beans. I know how you guys just love these. So I want to keep your blood sugar up. This could prove to be a long meeting. So let's see that. One for Supervisor Glenn, one for Supervisor Mill, one for Supervisor Olivera, one for Supervisor Giramundi, one for Supervisor Gopinelli, one for our UCAO, who I hope has a wonderful say in our county, Mr. Lutz, one for the very beautiful Megan Stedfield, our county council. What an office they have there. They're doing a fantastic job. And one, of course, for Diane. I think one of the most wonderful things about Calaveras County is the games people play, especially the departments. Oftentimes, they'll all hang around the water cooler together or have coffee together, and they'll say, we're bored. What should,
sir.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you're going to have a conversation, could you take it outside? Show respect for all speakers.
It's okay. My voice just goes up as people talk. Now, where were we? And the wonderful games departments play. One of them is, let's email Carl and see what response we get. It's kind of like a ping, and they always get something, and I think it's wonderful. It keeps me on my toes, keeps my blood flowing, keeps me just moving along. And I don't really take those emails too seriously, what they say. I just let it slide. I understand that people have their own opinions and their own views, and sometimes it comes out in an email that might not be completely correct, but I still take it with a smile, and I thank them for at least trying. So with that, thank you to you, the board, and thank you for the County of Calaveras. I'm going to stay, I think, for the meeting unless I hear something that I don't like, and then I'll just take off. Thank you again.
Thank you, sir.
Morning. I'd like to address a few things that have happened recently here in Calaveras County. One of them is the dumping of the honey oil containers.
Ma'am, could I have, there you go. We can't hear you in TV land here. Thank you.
The dumping of the honey oil containers at the high school is, in my opinion, an in-your-face attitude by people who process marijuana. The CCWD has just had a 6-hour brainwashing session on pot, and one of the directors is actually growing it. Yahoo News said that they had a long article about the effects of marijuana on young people's brains and behaviors, and it causes lethargy and harming themselves, psychosis. And they're using it to drug our warrior vets. I don't know whether it's a guinea pig operation or what. I went to school with a girl that I have stayed friends with, and she's the grandmother of 5 children that were terrorized by a young man. The 2 youngest, a boy and a girl, had a pitchfork. A boy and a girl. He had a pitchfork for a weapon. The young 6-year-old girl screamed to her older sisters to leave and get help. One was able to leave via a window, ran to the neighbors to call 911. When the police got there, they tried to gain entrance through the open window. The young man came at them with a pitchfork. Gaining entrance to the room, they tried to fight through the door while he was still attempting to go at him with a pitchfork. He was in such a frenzy that it took many shots, which led to his death.
22 seconds.
His medical records were not available, but the only illegal substance in his body was marijuana.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other speakers, public comment?
Good morning. I'd like to bring one bit of fire recovery issue to the board's attention. I live on the end of a rural road. We've got about 3 miles of private roads leading from the county-maintained road to our homes. There's about 25 homes back in our little rural area. And due to the number of homes that were destroyed and the number of trucks that needed to come and use that road for all of the debris removal, the road is just a disaster now. And unfortunately, a couple of our neighbors, 3 of our neighbors who live at the end of a spur, had an area that was completely washed out. They didn't have any access to their homes for over a month. And fixing just that very small 50-foot section cost those 3 owners collectively almost $10,000 to have it re-engineered and fixed. So as a small community out there, we're looking at a massive bill to try to rebuild this road and maintain our access. So I realize that road maintenance is a very difficult issue to manage on county-wide, but I just like to put a little bug in your ear in case there's any FEMA money or any disaster money available for any roads, if it's possible to include private roads in that. There's quite a few residents that are impacted by the damage done to the county roads as an aftermath of the fire. We personally own 330 feet of that private road, and our family has already invested an untold large amount of cash to just try to do our section. But we're still working with our neighbors, trying to raise more funds to get the additional mile and a half taken care of to the road. We can't receive UPS, we can't get any FedEx. We're building our house, replacing it from the fire, and we've had a number of subcontractors that can't get their vehicles to our site. It's requiring four-wheel drive now. Once you get to our section, it's good, but getting to there is almost impossible. So please just keep that in mind. This is a significant issue for a number of our county residents who live on private roads. Thank you.
ma'am.
Good morning, Cliff Edson, San Andreas, business owner. You know, this morning we all got up and we saluted our flag, said the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. If you notice that there are white stripes and red stripes, there's a blue embodiment, and then stars, which represent the states. But you know, those red stripes and those black stripes, they're sewn together for a reason. Because we are all one people here. And we should try to act like one people here instead of trying to divide. It's easy to rip those stitches out and divide that flag if you choose to do that. But to work together and to work things out and keep that flag whole and together, that's the challenge. And I sure hope that this board is up for that challenge. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning. Last year, we saw roads damaged, attitudes of entitlement, and disregard for neighbors from commercial cannabis growers up on West Murray Creek Road. No money was available to enforce and collect the taxes. Money from permits primarily served the permittees. So little funds are available to enforce the interim ordinance to clean up the abandoned grow sites. It apparently costs more to process and oversee this industry than was first proposed. Now the big money cannabis industry is out lawyering the common people to control our county. Commercial cannabis appears to be a dysfunctional enterprise, bringing violence and outside influence to our county. Please ban this while someone's vote still counts. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comment? Seeing none, we'll come back to the board. Any comments from the board? Madam Clerk?
Item 1 is from the Administrative Office to adopt a resolution to dissolve the Cannabis Ad Hoc Committee, adopt the position of Cannabis Control Coordinator, receive a report from the County Administrative Officer on the Cannabis Control Coordinator and feedback from impacted departments, and reaffirm the Board of Supervisors' priorities pertaining to the effective and timely implementation of the provisions within the May 10th, 2016 urgency ordinance, particularly in regard to the processing of cannabis grower permits and abatement of illegal cannabis grows within the county.
Thank you.
Before we start, I would like to just bring forth the matter of clarity here regarding the proposal that was presented at our last meeting, and that is that I'm sure that no one was in the room but Supervisor Garamendi and myself. I took the time to put up on the whiteboard what I proposed to be some of the issues that my constituents had brought forward, and Mr. Garamendi had brought forth the letter that you saw. I just want everybody to understand that that letter was not in any way written by me. I had nothing to do with its writing. So it is a document that if we're going to discuss it, maybe we need to poll the board to ensure that they want to go down the road of this agenda item, or do they want to also listen to the report out that I was offering at the last meeting. But as you recall, Chair, you were a little confused at that moment for a moment there. And so I delayed wanting to make my report out at that time to not add to the confusion that might be present. So I would still like to have the opportunity to do that, maybe not right now, but at some point in the meeting today.
County Council, any comment on that? Mike?
As long as it's within the item that's before the board, that's certainly something that can be discussed.
Okay. As board chair, I have no opposition to that. You can do that, Supervisor Mills, at your convenience when you would like to announce. Be advised, that is your notes, not a public document. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. Having heard that, CAO Lutz.
Thank you. I'll just be fairly brief in my synopsis piece. I feel that the agenda item as submitted was reflective of what I got last meeting from the committee. What I wanted to touch on this morning was some additional discussions that I was able to have with some of the impacted departments that are working through the urgency ordinance, and at the same time continuing on the direction to craft a ban ordinance to bring to this board. In looking at the first proposal piece, which is on the cannabis control coordinator position, I had an opportunity to do some research about other counties and similar structures, and it is not unprecedented to develop a coordinator-based position. Currently, Santa Cruz County has such a position. The Yolo County Board of Supervisors is in the process of reviewing a job classification for a similar position as well. I would note each jurisdiction that has adopted are not necessarily going down the path that Calaveras is going toward at this point, which is crafting and looking to adopt a ban ordinance. So that makes our situation a little different, but there is a precedent for having such a position within the county to oversee various matters related to a cannabis program or regulation of the industry in terms of coordinated response across the county. In speaking with a number of the departments, and that included planning, sheriff, building, code enforcement, county council, some of the areas that came up, the most salient points, I think, is concern that this person, a coordinator, would serve as the spokesperson for those departments and be bringing back to the board at regular meetings a representation that that person feels are the challenges and outcome issues that may be impacting the departments. The department heads expressed concern with that, feeling that they felt it important that they be able to represent their challenges to the board if they were being held accountable for what those outcomes were. Additionally, there's concern about adding red tape by creating such a position and a layer of additional bureaucracy by having an additional position that they're having to work through when moving forward, and creating a position with really no resources to be able to oversee. Essentially creating a function of one person that would have limited ability to go in and control or direct action from a department because of the authorities granted to that position. And lastly, there was some expressed concern that it's not really addressing what is the real challenge, and that's some of the existing language with the urgency ordinance, primarily background checks, and regardless of that position, it can't speed up the background check process that's being handled by our sheriff's department, just based on the lengthy process that it can sometimes take to go through that full review. In closing, the additional feedback that the departments had was that the board could request the department heads to come to the board at each meeting if we want to do a report out and take it piece by piece on presenting what those challenges are. And there was also some expressed feeling that once Code 8.06 is implemented, that ought to drastically speed up the abatement efforts across the county. And therefore, that this position might be not necessary in light of the changes contained therein. I do believe all of the impacted department heads are here today and might want to also provide some additional feedback and input directly to the board. Again, I wanted to summarize the salient points as I believe it is important for the board in considering how to move forward.
Thank you, C.O. Lutz. Any comment by the board? I'll hear your point of order, sir.
Yes, I'm confused by the agenda today. I've attended previous meetings, and this was today to be the delivery, I understood, an explanation from the ad hoc committee about the facts they had found, which is what they were sent out to do. I haven't heard any facts submitted here, and we've gone directly into Commissioner Garavendi's report, which purports to be a report of the ad hoc committee, and I don't think it is, because I just heard Commissioner Mills say that he hadn't delivered his report yet. Now, we've gone directly into discussing Commissioner Garavendi's reports. I don't understand what's going on here. This is not at all consistent with what the agenda says, for that matter, except to the degree it just repeats what Commissioner Garamendi had recommended. So I don't understand the procedure, and I think council or someone ought to explain it, at least to me or to the crowd, of what's going on here today.
I'd be happy to, sir.
Thank you.
If you have, we'll address that issue. We're just getting into the agenda item. And if everybody has an opportunity to review the agenda, you'll see it's in 4 different categories as listed. We're going to be taking board comments on that. Then there'll be public comment. Then we'll start addressing those individual issues. And I will make a decision as chair how we're going to do that. Either I'm going to bifurcate it or we're going to hear it all as one. So that's our procedure, sir. Does that answer your question?
No, that did not.
Okay.
I was speaking only to the point of what this proceeding was about, because it was a special meeting, my understanding. It was a special meeting to deal with the report of the ad hoc committee, which had been adopted. Turns out it wasn't really the report, though. It was only Commissioner Garamendi's report. And we were going to hear the facts they found that were going to be considered and be the findings for whatever it is that these supervisors decide to do with the ban ordinance, which is proposed and somewhere in the stage of being developed. We're not sure where that is. But that was the proceeding for the special hearing today that I understood. And it does not appear that what's happening is anything other than going directly into the considerations of the report that was submitted by Commissioner Garamendi. That's all I'm saying. It seems to be sort of out of order. And that part of it can't be fixed by discussing a bunch of things. It has to be fixed by determining whether or not and what the agenda really is today, and then proceeding, in my opinion.
Okay. Counsel, you
Thank
want to
you.
comment on that?
Excuse me, did you have an opportunity to read the full staff report of the item in front of the board today?
Did I what?
Did you have an opportunity to review the full staff report of the item that's before the board today?
No, I reviewed what was presented as the agenda and a done-did sort of resolution that was attached.
Right, the item,
Without serious findings with it, by the way, just a resolution that was going to be presented, I guess, for the board to act on. That's what it appeared to me.
it's my understanding from last week that the special meeting was to be agendized for staff to present information. The item before the board today, the recommendation, so the discussion is to discuss the adoption of a resolution to, 1, dissolve the Cannabis Ad Hoc Committee, 2, adopt the position of Cannabis Control Coordinator, 3, receive a report from the County Administrative Officer on the Cannabis Control Coordinator and feedback from impacted departments, and 4, reaffirm the Board of Supervisors' priorities pertaining to the effective and timely implementation of the provisions within the May 10, 2016 urgency ordinance, particularly in regard to the processing of cannabis grower permits and abatement of illegal cannabis grows within the county. That is the item that's before the board today.
That's really lifting yourself up by the bootstraps. That's Commissioner Garibaldi's report. There's been the report from the ad hoc committee. What did they do? Did they accomplish anything at all? consider if a special meeting was set to do that. What you read there is simply what, he put forth as the report of the committee, which it turned out it was not, because Commissioner Mills has already said, I haven't presented my information, so there isn't even information, there is no report. Frankly, the board ought to adjourn. That's really what should happen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Renke, for your comments. Has your point of order been addressed by the board? I want to make sure that you've got your points covered.
I think they're there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll bring it back to the board for comments on the presentation, the short presentation by CAO Lutz. Any comments on that presentation? Seeing none, I'm going to open this up to public comment now. I want to make sure that we understand.
Mr. Chair, before you do that, I ask that you allow Mr. Mills to give his presentation on what he accomplished during his time on the ad hoc committee. I think that's only fair that before we open this conversation to the public.
I would
Because I'm
accept
going to
that.
ask to be brought forth at some time to hear it.
Sure. Okay. We can honor that. Mr. Mills? Sorry, Supervisor Mills.
Supervisor Mills, I just want to remind the board that it does need to stay within the confines of what the board item is. So, so just as you make your presentation, recall what this item is and what has been agendized for today. As it relates to the ad hoc committee, it's whether the ad hoc committee should be dissolved or not. So as long as your report out stays within the confines of the item that's been agendized.
For clarity, the request from to the ad hoc committee, as the board was polled, was to provide factual information. I have that information in front of me. If it is not part of the agenda that is here, then it cannot be presented.
That's correct, unless it goes in line with any of the items, any of the discussion topics that are agendized.
Then I'm sorry, I cannot present this based upon the way that the agenda has been written today. And I will
One
defer.
point of clarification or question that I have, if your recommendation does still include the dissolving of the ad hoc committee at the end of that, would that still fall within the category of what you're asking?
It does not.
Okay.
Council, then we're going to proceed on the agendized item in those areas and those areas only. Any problem with any supervisor on that?
Maybe, Chair, it would be best to possibly poll the board on all 4 items individually so that we don't delay and take additional time on areas that the board doesn't feel comfortable in dealing with.
I think that we're going to stick with the items listed on the agenda, and a poll of the board is what you're requesting. For what purpose again?
To be sure that, for instance, in the case of item 2, is that something that the board is wanting to discuss? Is there 3 votes to do that? Or is that item 2 something that we just don't want to discuss? Or do we want to say item 3 is good, we want to talk about that, but we don't want to waste our time with item 4? So
I think what I'd like to do is, as I mentioned before, is after public comment to bifurcate into 4 separate items as listed on the agenda, have a discussion on the board and a vote on each individual item. Council, is there a problem with that procedure?
Certainly within your discretion, as long as there's public comment on the entire item.
Okay? Agreeable?
Mr. Chair, I just, for clarification, for clerical purposes, if the items are addressed separately with separate votes, will we then need a new resolution and new resolution language, or multiple resolutions and multiple resolution languages provided?
Yeah, you are correct, Madam Chair. Or,
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Madam Clerk. Hey, you get promoted quick around here. All right, having understood that, We're going to entertain public comment, and before we start, I'd like to remind everybody that applause is very much appreciated, but the sound and takes some time, and we're going to have probably a lot of speakers. So if you would refrain from applauding, you can do your hand thing. Another thing I'd like to keep in mind, folks, please be respectful of the speakers. Be respectful of each other. Be respectful of the board and the staff. We're gonna get through this with the best understanding we possibly can. And having said that, I'm going to be focusing on you as speakers to stay on topic to those issues addressed in each individual item that's listed on the agenda. Please try to stay there. Thank you. Madam Clerk, 3 minutes.
Just so that I'm understanding and keeping the time, we won't be using the timer on the wall as it's not working properly, so I will be giving you the 30-second reminder. I do try to do it in between your words and not interrupt. And the other is, then my understanding is there will be 3 minutes for the public to make comments on all 4 items together.
In this session, that's correct.
In this session. Okay, thank you.
First off, I'd like to introduce myself again, Carl Stoughton. Sadly, I would not even be in the running for this position as CCC, as I have a conflict. And I have every second Tuesday, I have my retirement meeting, and sometimes we take field trips. It just gets, it's a very difficult at times to schedule time to be at a meeting such as this. But it's tough being retired, I'll tell you that right now. I would like to, a lot of people have said you need a business plan to handle this situation here. That might be in many respects true. The problem is you would be pulling somebody out of the public sector, out of the commercial sector, and I'm afraid that $148,000 wouldn't even come close. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning again, Cliff Edson, San Andreas. So it's my understanding that, when did this agenda come out? Last week sometime? Yesterday. It came out yesterday. So the report, everything came out just yesterday, all of the public information?
For a special meeting, we're required to give 24 hours posting, so that's what we did.
Okay, so you had it 24 hours ahead of time, and now we're deciding whether to bring something else forward or not. It's a waste of time for everybody in this room. The chair obviously reviewed it, thought it was okay, brought it forward, and all of a sudden we have issues with what's being brought forward on the agenda, which could have been taken care of earlier if you're reading your packets. So I kind of have a concern with that. Should have been taken care of before you even got here, actually. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comment? Seeing none, we'll go to the first.
Yeah, Brock Estes from Valley Springs. I have a question first. Since you've separated this into 4 categories, will there be 4 sections of public comment, or is this the only opportunity to address the board on this issue?
I haven't made up my mind on that yet. I'm kind of concerned about the lack of response during the first public comment period, such as now.
Yeah.
So I'm considering having another public comment after each individual item.
So, Mr. Chair, that is what I clarified,
Okay.
that this is the opportunity for the public to comment. They have 3 minutes to comment on the 4 items at this time. Did I misunderstand?
I must have misunderstood. I'm sorry.
So there will or won't be subsequent public comment?
Public comment is now.
Only now? Okay.
Now only.
In that case, having a limited time, I'll address an overview. What I'm seeing here is great division.
Excuse me, sir. Would you start Mr. Brock's time right now? Okay, thank you.
What I'm seeing is great division. People on one side, people on the other side. I don't see anyone looking for a third way, a middle way. I think eventually we're going to come to look for a third way, a middle way. As some of you know, my background's in arbitration. In arbitration, parties are far apart. It's the arbitrator's job to bring them together. If both parties walk out of that arbitration kind of unhappy, the arbitrator did a good job. In the end, I think that's where we're going to come, and I think there is a third way, and that's where I'm looking. I could not possibly lay it out to you in 3 minutes, but I will say that it has precedent in other states and counties and could easily be applied here. It would not make either side happy, but I think each side could live with it. So eventually, I think that's where we're going to go. On the specifics of appointing a CCC, I think you have it a little bit backwards. I don't think you hire the captain to steer the ship until you know what the course is. You don't give the captain the ship and say, figure out your own course. You have to set the parameters first so that someone who comes in knows exactly what they're working on. And that's it for now. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
How long did it cost 4 times, though?
One time, sir. Next speaker, please.
I don't claim to be the smartest person in the world or even close to it, but I just feel like the things that are going on are not respectful to the supervisors or the people. And I'm confused about why I'm saying this, but this is the general feeling that I have.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good morning, Board. Sandy Maitrot. Just wanted to comment, if I could, briefly on item number 2, which has to do with the program coordinator. Moving forward with the program manager or program office within government truly does represent several challenges. I feel it's worth pointing these out as the county moves forward and you consider what's before you today. There have been a series of laws and policies that have been developed over time that the county functions under to address specific problems that will need to be addressed as part of the program because there are interconnecting items. Agency executives and their stakeholders often do not understand their roles and responsibilities, and part of that definition will have to happen by this role. Program management is not consistently recognized as a discipline that is essential to government performance, success, or its results. So again, new territory that we would be stepping into and moving forward in. Integration of program management into strategic planning, goal setting, and performance processes will be required. And I think that that's a big thing that we need to consider. There has to be measurable successes with this. And strong senior level program management support is essential. And I would be looking to the board to provide that for this role if in fact it were instituted. These items will present challenges, but they also represent great opportunity for Calaveras County to use this particular program effort as a best practice for future departmental integration and resource optimization. Thank you for letting me have a few moments of your time.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Dr. Prapana Randall Smith, District 3 voter and cannabis cultivator, business owner. One of the principles of education that I subscribe to is that you work from the near to the far, from that which is to that which shall be. And right now you're being handed a copy of the county code which establishes the planning agency. If you take a look at it, it was done in 1979. Before that, there was a road agency, which was abolished. And if you take a look at that, how the planning agency is currently organized, you have three sections or three chapters. Chapter 2.38 first establishes the planning agency, and I just for the purposes of flow, to share with you what I'd like to get across. You'll notice that the agency is comprised of the Board of Supervisors, the Planning Commission, and the Planning Department. That is the planning agency. We're all familiar with how it works, how it's structured, and what it does. And so in the first handout, you'll see on numbered 1, you have the planning agency. You have chapter 2.4, which has the planning department, specifies its duties, it creates the planning director position. And then 2.44 establishes the planning commission. Now, that's what exists now. I'm not suggesting you do away with that, but I am suggesting that if you take a look at the second handout, basically what I did was I thought, what do we really need here? We have an industry that's worth probably $250 million, possibly more. Major impact, requires serious work to get things under control. And I think that the idea of a coordinator is a good idea. It's needed, but I don't think it's enough. I think you need a whole agency. And so this document for a cannabis control agency is basically the planning agency language adapted for a cannabis control agency. And if you look at the draft, it's just a draft only. This is a suggestion. I'm not suggesting you have to go with this, but I want to hopefully get people thinking about what can be, how we can deal with these big issues. This isn't about the specifics. This is about the process and structure, governmental structure. Thank you. And so if you take a look at 2.84, you have the agency, and then there's some, I lined out there the purposes, who can argue with those purposes. And then on the next page, you have a control department with a control coordinator. And then finally, on the third page, a cannabis control commission. And there's extra language there. I would like to invite you to consider how we can handle this very, very significant industry in our county through an independent agency. Not under any other department, but completely independent. And I sort of see the commissioners as going out in the field and learning.
Smith. Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Thank you.
Any other speakers?
Hi, Susan Morse, Angels Camp. I'm not sure I'm supposed to be asking you a question, but because the agenda precluded Supervisor Mills, District 4, our supervisor, to give his report from the ad hoc committee with his findings, I was wondering, are we going to be able to hear his information? You're all looking at me. I don't know. I think as a member of the District 4, I would like to hear it.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Bill McManus. When I was listening to the beginning, I was making some notes, and something kind of jumps out at me, that we're considering the CCC. We have a CAO. I mean, the alphabet soup just continues on and on. Is what you're saying that the CAO is not capable of doing his job, therefore we're going to put someone ahead of him to keep up with what he does? Are you suggesting that department heads are not doing their job and that you need someone to stay on top of them? How far down into the organization chart does your disappointment or concern go that things aren't being done correctly, and now we have to bring someone new in who hasn't worked with any of them and give them a responsibility of herding all of these department heads, employees, whatever, together to achieve some goal that you want from them? Is it not enough that the board directs the CAO? Is it not enough that the CAO has authority over department heads? Is it not enough that department heads control their own employees, give them direction, and monitor them? Why are we going through this at all? And on top of that, we don't even have an ordinance yet. We don't know the scope of the work that this person would have to accept. We don't know how successful they might be in even getting something together that you all agree with. So I think it's kind of insulting that you have to hire someone else to get people to do the job that they were either elected or appointed to do or hired. And I think that working within existing government structures, you can achieve what you want to achieve. But I think you need something for them to look at first. Otherwise, this is all academic about what we might do, and we don't know where the board is going to go with this. So you can't tell when you get there because we don't know where you're going right now. So anyway, I hope that the existing government structure will work. We've got good employees. We've got good department heads. I think that, if they need direction, you should be able to give it to them. And our new CAOs, I don't think will be reluctant to encourage them to do the things that you want him to do. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other speakers?
Hi, Dina Morris. I'm really confused about today's meeting. Last week, I thought I was going to hear from the ad hoc committee, and as I'm being told today, I only heard from one member of the ad hoc committee. And when that member spoke, I thought that was a joint report, and apparently it's not. So again, as I stated last week, I failed to see how a CCC is going to help people like myself, all the victims out there, and everyone else who wants a ban and wants it now. I would like to hear what the other side of the ad hoc committee had to say before the board makes a decision on whether we need a CCC. Anyway, again, I feel like a CCC is just another delay in moving a ban forward. It's more money being spent on a position we really don't need and really don't have the money to spend on it, according to all the people that keep saying, how are we going to pay for a ban? Well, how are we going to pay for another person to layer up in the departments? Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Morning.
Dave Radford, District 4. I want to address the item number 4, or recommendation number 4, about illegal marijuana grows or cannabis grows. It is still illegal to cultivate cannabis in the state of California, period. You can avoid prosecution for that if you have 12 mature plants, or 6 mature plants, or 12 immature plants. If you also have a card issued by the county, a medical cannabis card. That's the only way you can avoid prosecution for more than 12 plants, 12 immature plants. Or it could be 24 if the caregiver also grows marijuana. And I don't understand where this thought came from. I guess it was smoke and mirrors from the drug dealers about it's okay to grow marijuana. It's not. 11360 of the Health and Safety Code says it's not, unless you have a medical cannabis card. And we're just going to let all these illegal grows go? I think it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous that we pass a county ordinance and say, it's okay to break California law. It doesn't work like that. It just doesn't work like that. And these grows are ridiculously out of control. A dosage unit of cannabis is about 1/10 of a gram. And there's 28.5 grams in an ounce. And so in 1 ounce, you have 285 dosage units, right? Does that make sense? There's 16 ounces in a pound, which makes it 4,560 dosage units. And 1 ton, which is 2,000 pounds, makes it 9,120,000 dosage units. For the number of cannabis cards issued in this county, 9 million dosage units should take care of all of their needs for the next 20, 30 years. And that's the reason the Health and Safety Code exists. It's still a crime to cultivate marijuana, period. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other speakers?
Hello, Board. Trevor Whitkey, Calaveras Cannabis Alliance, District 2. On the agenda item, with regard to the first issue and whether or not to dissolve the ad hoc committee, we're supportive of dissolving the ad hoc committee simply to bring it before the entire board so that the whole board can weigh in and can give their feedback regarding this issue. So with regard to the first issue, we're supportive of that. On the second agendized or second sub-issue, whether or not to adopt the cannabis control coordinator, there can be a lot of value in this position. Clearly from the report back from CAO Lutz, there's concern amongst staff about their representation and how the program will be administered. So long as the staff concerns are addressed, we are supportive of this position, and we think that if it helps to streamline the application process and takes any of the load off of other department heads or departments that are currently backlogged, this could be a valuable position to create. Specifically, I'm thinking of the sheriff's office, which is been burdened by the background checks and the business license. My background check has been in the sheriff's office since September 17th, and I haven't gotten any word back. I've made multiple requests to see the status, and apparently because my mom owns property in Cortez, Colorado, we are waiting on the Cortez Police Department to get back in touch with our local police sheriff's department and report back that my mom hasn't committed any crimes, which she hasn't. And so because of another agency in another state not communicating with our local sheriff, we're still waiting on our background check to get through. If there's any way that the cannabis control coordinator can take the burden off of the sheriff's department to try and track down some of this information and can take on that load, that would be great. Additionally, if there's a way of adding new hires out of the program, the existing fees that are there, to have new hires in the sheriff's department so that the MET team isn't, the marijuana eradication team, isn't being bogged down in administrative paperwork, and some of their load can be taken off by having hires in that department. Could be another potential solution. With regard to the final issue on implementing the urgency ordinance, we are fully supportive of that. Any way CCA can be of help to the county in facilitating and speeding up the process, we would love to be helpful. And we are definitely encouraging all of our members to do everything they can to get their background checks taken care of and get our taxes paid.
Thank you, sir.
Morning, board members, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mike Gonsman. I'm from Wallace, California. I think all of us are a little confused today. It started off total in confusement, and now it doesn't seem to be getting any better. But all I wanted to say is this county, we don't need an ad hoc committee or we don't need a coordinator or any combination of any of the above. We just don't need any more government. We have enough government now. I think we need to wait and expedite the proposed ban that was given to the county by 3 supervisors. When that comes out, we're all going to have plenty of time to review that, and that's what's going to be important at that point, is to come back with our suggestions and to see what we can do about making this. But I'm I'm just totally for a ban, there's just I don't know how we can give you guys any more information on the bad things that happen when we open up our doors in our county to something like marijuana. As far as the crime is concerned, it's just not a good thing. So why don't we just expedite the ban, try to get that in here as quickly as we can, and we'll take a look at it, and then we'll go from there. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Bob Bowerman, District 5, Executive Director of Calaveras County Normal. We support the CCC. I think it's a great step in regulations, and I know there's a ban on the table, but hopefully that goes to a ballot, and which is where it belongs, and at that point, we will prove once and for all that regulations is what's going to work. So a CCC is a good step in going in that direction. Get ready for it. I don't think we're going to end up with a ban. Not if it goes to a vote. We're going to end up with solid regulations. So good job. Keep it going. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comment? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board for comment.
Mr. Chair, I propose a 5-minute recess. I would like to consult with County Council and yourself.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be taking a 10-minute break. There are some medical needs for the members of the board, so we're going to be taking a few breaks this morning. Thank you. Back in 10 minutes. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're back in session. At this time, we're going to break from the agenda item, and we're going to go to supervisors reporting out. That'll be the last issue on the printed agenda. Start with Supervisor Clapp. Do you have a reporting out? Microphone, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, we ask a lot from Tim, our CAO, and we expect a lot from him, at least I do, and we give him very little authority. I would like that, with Tim's doing something for us on our behalf, I'd like to have the authority to remove anyone from office that he feels that's hindering anything that he's doing. Right now, most of the department heads work at our pleasure, and I would not take a job as a superintendent if I couldn't fire somebody. And that's what I would like to see, some changes or work in that direction. If we're going to be expecting results from somebody, we need to give them the authority to do it.
Supervisor Mills?
Yes, under AB 1234, I can now provide staff, the board, and the public with my reporting out of the ad hoc committee. On January 31st, the board was polled to direct staff to craft a total ban as allowable by state law. Further, the board, in creating the ad hoc committee, gave clear direction to do fact-finding only for the purpose of understanding the options available after the creation of the ban ordinance. The approach taken here was to address the question of what is the minimum allowable by state law as it revolves around the recent passage of Prop 64 as the standard or bar by which the county could regulate the activity and what those regulations might look like. We could limit medical to the same rules as Prop 64, personal use only. Those minimums are 6 plants indoors for personal use. Within that minimum, the board could consider the following regulations to assure, and believe me, I've done a lot of research with my constituents on these issues. To assure no more than 6 plants indoors per parcel. Indoors requires a habitable structure, not a travel trailer, to contain activity. Proof of residency requirement, as in the case of Santa Cruz County. Building codes that are being met. Odors and mold are controlled via environmental health. Processing to be on-site only. Security from children confirmed. I think we need to review the distances and definitions of sensitive use areas such as bus stops, arcades, existing buildings catering to families with children. federal funds that are not being used to support the activities, such as if you're being provided Section 8 federal housing allowance, you can't grow marijuana there. The board further has the right to ban sales, donating, bartering, gifting, trading, manufacturing, testing, distribution, and all the other ancillary activities as part of our codes, possibly to be reviewed somewhere later on. But the big singular issue here is the amount of grading that has occurred in our county without permits. And it needs to be resolved as it impacts not only our watershed, but the water supplies for our neighbors in San Joaquin County and other counties. And it will impact the county for generations unless restoration work is completed when abating or closing existing sites. We need to decide whether to require all grading without permit to be returned to native condition under county direction with penalties. The type of penalties, the requirements possibly for CEQA or NEPA mitigation, sequestering of offending equipment, restoration of affected land, contractors' licenses revoked should be discussed as part of the process of undoing this current outdoor and mixed light activity. Costs to be borne by the landowner, where the option will be for the owner to either complete the restoration or the county will have to do it at the owner's expense. If you're doing mining or other earth alteration, there is a requirement in California that you restore the area to native when the project is complete. This might require performance bonding of all grading activities to ensure compliance with county ordinances. Contractors working on weekends currently moving heavy equipment on gravel roads, including dump trucks, creating excessive fugitive dust and damaging roads, including private roads. I'm thinking about CSA 2, CSA 4, CSD 2 in my area. Contractors leasing equipment to avoid challenges to their license is also another concern, and I think it requires us to review our road ordinances as to how we correct the impacts. Trees removed without proper timber harvest plans identified by photos need to be restored at cost to the landowner. I can explain the site that we have for our transfer station at Copperopolis, where we have 5 acres of ground that we can only use about 1 acre of it because we can't take down enough oak trees to get the project feasible. And yet we have people that do this particular activity and take down trees indiscriminately, and there's no challenge for them to return it. So my key is that we need to be sure that whatever we're going to be doing in the future, that the site is returned to native with no nuisances left on the property. And I respectfully submit this for your consideration.
Thank you, Supervisor Mills. Supervisor Tofinelli.
I have nothing to report this time.
Supervisor Garamendi.
Thank you very much. When Supervisor Mills and I met, we both have very long lists of things that we recognize need to be fixed and issues that we need to take on. What we did was we talked about things, and those are all, some we agreed on, some we didn't agree on, but what we did is we talked about things that we both agreed upon. And that was what we presented, because, yeah, I've got an enormous list as well. It's a long, complex issue, and a lot of things that Supervisor Mills brought up are completely spot on. Couldn't agree more. So that's all I had to report.
Thank you. I am going to report out on my activities, what this particular item is regarding. I will be attending Forest Meadows Group luncheon to discuss items in District 3. Those items include what we're talking about today and other road conditions, things of that sort. It's part of my procedure to discuss those individual problems with individuals and groups and homeowners associations. I'll also be attending on Thursday, the curtain burner CAL FIRE operation at Red Hill. I'm sure we'll be talking about that in the very near future. I will be attending the Senior Citizens Beauty Pageant, actually sponsored by Common Ground. I'll be participating as one of the judges. We have a series of meetings set up for our various committees. I attended the LAFCO meeting last night. Also attended some meetings regarding the agendas. Unfortunately, the special meeting We did not have an agenda review due to the 24-hour notification, and that's what we're doing here today, folks. So, having said that, is there any staff reporting we need to cover, folks? All right, I'd like to go back to the agenda item, and with that, I'm going to offer one more opportunity for public comment before we go to the board. Anybody else would like to comment? Please keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, you can only speak one time.
Good morning, Katrine Lambie, West Point, District 2. I just would like to counter some of the really bad stories we've heard about how awful cannabis is in your community. We have a very different experience, and most of the grows are in District 2. So we are the people most concerned with this. And I would like you to take note that there are not a line of people here from District 2 complaining about violence, crime, and really bad experiences. Please take that into consideration.
Okay.
We in District 2 are for regulation and willing to work with this new industry. Thank you.
Ma'am, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to keep this corralled into our agenda item, the 4 issues that are documented on the agenda. Thank you.
I just heard the previous comment. I live in Mountain Ranch, District 2, and I've been before the board, this will be my 3rd time, and I've invited people to come out to my home and see what the neighborhood has gone. The property next to me, they brought in D6 bulldozers 2 different times, plus backhoes, have built a completely new road without permits. They've made a big dumping ground.
Sir, we have to keep this within the confines of the agenda item. Is there any issue you want to address?
The roads, the building of roads, I thought that was within this.
Mr. Chair, if I can.
Sure.
I think it kind of is on topic because of a report that was read by
Okay.
Supervisor Mills concerning roads and cats and so forth.
All right. I continue, sir.
But at my home, you could get a perfect example of what's going on in District 2. And I would welcome you out. Their place is all barbed wire. You can't drive into their place, but you can drive into my property and oversee what's been going on next to me. And you can look around the neighborhood and see it far at about 8 or 9 different grows in the area. But the example of roads is a perfect example of what's going on. Illegal, building a road a block and a half long illegally, fencing it off so no one else can see what's going on, except from my house. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chris Jonkoltz, District 2, Deputy Director, Calaveras Normal. I wanted to thank Supervisor Mills for your presentation after hearing Mr. Garamendi's speech last week. Normal is very pleased with what came out of the committee. We feel that that's a regulation is a proper way to move forward in Calaveras, and we believe that many of the items that have come up suggest that regulation is the path to alleviate these concerns in the county and to address the issues of both sides. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any further public comment? Seeing none, I'll bring it to the board for comment or question. Any supervisor have a comment or question regarding this issue? We're going to be speaking on the public speaking, then we'll go to each individual item by item. Seeing none, we'll address item 1. Any discussion on item 1? Actually, I take that back. On the agenda item, section 1.
I would move to dissolve.
Madam Clerk, could you read that for everybody's understanding, please?
Dissolve, to adopt a resolution to dissolve the Cannabis Ad Hoc Committee.
Okay. Supervisor Mills.
Yeah, I would move to adopt without discussion.
I would second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Supervisor Mills making the motion, seconded by Supervisor Tofinelli. Any further comment by the board? I would entertain a vote, indicate the approval of the motion by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by saying no. Hearing no negative comment, motion passes 5-0 unanimous. Madam Clerk, can you go to item number 2?
So, part 2 of this item is to adopt the position of the Cannabis Control Coordinator.
Any comment by the board?
Yes.
Supervisor Klepp?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would be, I'd like to get rid of it. I'd like to put it pretty much in Tim's hands. If he needs something in his office to help him, then I would support that. So, because I basically, I think this is Tim's job to see, carry out the wishes of the board, and he needs to need, what he needs to get, and he needs the support from the complete board.
Any further comment?
I'll say that I will not be supporting this.
Okay.
Likewise, I think that adding this layer is hindering his ability to have the latitude that he's going to need to properly do his job at times. I would like to have give the clear direction, and for him to be able to carry that direction out in whatever way, means, or function possible to make that occur. So this is more of a statement of support for a new CAO than it is a statement of support for a coordinator.
And I would agree with that completely.
Thank you, Supervisor Tofinelli. Supervisor Garamendi.
I would like to echo that statement of support for the CAO, but I think we ought to, and I would not expect the CCC position to be over the CAO. Perhaps we can consider putting this position in his office. CAO has a broad set of responsibilities and a lot of really pressing items that are countywide that we need to take on. This is certainly one of them, but we want to make sure that this is a clear and present issue. We want to make sure this gets the proper amount of attention. CAO has a very small staff and only so many hours in the day, so perhaps we could consider moving this under his direction, but still provide him somebody who can handle this piece of his portfolio under his guidance.
Okay, thank you. My views on this, I'm very concerned how this would be interpreted by our department heads. And I have reason to believe that CAO Lutz's comments regarding his interviews with department heads, how it would affect this position. I'm going to jump a little bit into item number 3. I intend to talk today at this meeting with the department heads to see what their views are regarding this position. So, having said that, I would entertain a motion on segment number 2.
Mr. Chair, if you need a motion on whether to adopt number 2?
That's correct.
If I could consider, if you'd consider making a amendment to number 2, putting the Cannabis Control Coordinator under the direction of the CAO, would that
Council?
make it better?
I'll vote for this.
I just want to clarify,
I think it's premature.
the resolution that's before the board addresses all of them. So obviously, we've already gotten direction on number 1 to dissolve the ad hoc committee. For the other subsections 2 and 3, it might be beneficial, it's certainly in the chair's discretion, to find out how you would like the board to modify the resolution that's before the board or not. Taking each item piece by piece and having a vote on each item piece by piece, my only concern is if there is in fact going to be a position created, that needs to be done through resolution. So if the motion is to create this position, we need to look at the resolution that's before the board to modify the resolution to meet the motion. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but I think in our prior discussion this morning, that if we decide on these individual sections of this, that there would be separate resolutions to each individual section. Is that what my understanding was from Madam Clerk?
We would have to draft a resolution to be adopted pursuant to each action. Alternatively, what you could do is we have the direction to dissolve the ad hoc committee to go through and get a polling, then modify the resolution based on that polling, and then a final action to adopt a resolution based on that direction. That might be the cleanest approach that the board would
I would agree with
consider.
that. Any comment by the board? Supervisor Tofinelli?
Well, I think it's correct. I think we need to be polled in all three of these, and if you have a majority of the supervisors that will not support any item, then we can just make a motion to deny this resolution and we're move on.
We're done.
Council? Does that sound good? Yes?
Certainly.
Yeah, okay.
So I guess my question would be, rephrase what I said before. Is there interest on the part of this board to have the CCC exist under the CAO?
I think the question is, if they were to exist, it would be under the direction of the CAO. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes.
Okay. If it wasn't to exist, then the CAO would hold responsibility for the department heads. Is that what you're saying?
We can, that's what I said, but that would certainly be the next thing. Who would be in charge?
There you go. Everybody have an understanding of that? Supervisor Clark, Supervisor Mills, Supervisor Tofinelli. So I guess we could just poll the board on that issue? All right.
One of the challenges, one of the challenges to not having this position and putting it under CAO is our structure is such, as Supervisor Clark put it out before, our department heads report directly to the board. So you have a structural issue. I don't think we plan on reorganizing the whole county at this moment.
To that point, though, that's only constitutional officers that report directly to the board. Your other department heads report to the CAO.
Right.
Through the CAO to the board.
Right. Some do.
Well, I think all of this, in my opinion, is premature. The ordinance, and I'd like to ask now when the ordinance is due to come out and be made public. Do you have the answer to that?
Staff is anticipating finishing revisions based on input from outside counsel and consultants. The anticipation is that final edits of the draft will be released this week.
So I think all of this is premature until we get a view of the ordinance, and then we discuss that as a board when it comes back to us after public comments and review of it. And then as we craft this ordinance, go forward, depending on where we're at as a board. I think this whole ad hoc committee thing has been hijacked and has not been done did not do what it was charged to do, which is go out, solicit public comments on what they would like to see in this forthcoming ordinance and bring back those facts to this board for open discussion. It wasn't nothing secret being done other than two members were going out and getting public comments on what they would like to see added to this ordinance or that wasn't in this ordinance after we saw it and it was presented to the public. And then bringing that back for a full board discussion in the public and for public comments on all of those. I don't think that was done. I think all of this being done here is premature. I don't think, it hasn't mentioned in the urgency ordinance. I don't think that was the intention. I went back and I looked at and watched the March 14th meeting, and it started at the 2nd hour and 17th minute where this was item number 16 that came to the board in the open discussion that this board had in public comments on what direction, and it was very clear, and even more clear when the chair spoke about what the direction was, that this was not anything to do with bringing back any action item other than fact-finding and presenting it to the board and going out and getting public comments. Because as was been testified here by both of them, that there were many comments that they had, but none of that came forward. None of that was presented here. None of it was rather, a lot of people in the public said that we'd like to see it on 60 acres. We'd like to see it out of residential. We'd like whatever. None of those comments were presented to this board ever. And there was only one meeting. So all of this here being presented to us now, in my opinion, is not in a timely manner. It is not presented to us at a time when the ordinance is here in front of us in an open forum and we're discussing it. That's my opinion. So I will not, if you want to poll us right now, I will not be voting for any of these measures. If that's going to simplify the matter going forward to get, if you want to poll on all three of them, whether all of us are going to, instead of going down each one of them, I'll tell you right now, I'm not going to vote for any of them. Okay?
Same
Thank
here.
you, Supervisor Toffenelli. Any
I
other
agree-
comments?
I agree with Gary.
Supervisor Clapp, Supervisor Mills. I concur. Supervisor Garamendi?
Just so I understand, we're discussing not voting on any of this?
That's my interpretation. What Supervisor Toffenelli just explained.
I will not vote for this. So the motion that would be presented would be to not adopt the resolution that's presented to this board today.
And the rest of the board?
I concur with Gary, yeah.
Supervisor Mills, you as well?
Yeah, I would second that motion.
I haven't commented yet.
I really don't know what to say. I mean, we had 4 points. Supervisor Mills and I met. We initialed the bottom of those 4 points. I don't know what to say. I mean, I see it as very timely. We've got illegal growers coming in. We've got people thumbing their nose at our laws. We need a coordinated attack plan. I think it's very timely that we need to do something. I mean, we can't wait until the grows, till the summer's in full swing to decide how we're going to attack this issue.
Throw us under the bus again.
My feeling is,
That man had his life threatened, okay?
sir, I appreciate the comment, but now's not the time. My feeling is the ad hoc committee situation, I couldn't buy into it because I saw what happened in the emergency ordinance. I believe that this should be an open, public forum with the full board. I'm personally discouraged that the public did not have the opportunity to put this to the ballot. But we can't change that now. I wish there was a way that the board could put it on the ballot. But then I have to go back to my main priority. No matter what we do, and I say we as a county, if we ban marijuana cultivation, or if we regulate marijuana cultivation, how are we going to protect the citizens in this county? How are we going to pay for that? Now, we've heard both sides of that argument, almost to the extent where that's not our problem, that's the county's problem. Well, you're absolutely right, that is the county's problem. That's our problem, folks, not just these 5 individuals sitting at this desk. It's every single citizen in this county, because every single citizen is affected by this decision. And what we've done is we've taken the voice of the people and laid it on 5 heads, that's going to affect what your lives are going to be for a very, very long time in Calaveras County. I'm opposed to anything to leave decisions to one person or a group of 5 when it affects that many people. So I would not support this. I would not support this. Having said that, I would entertain a motion to the effect, in fact, Supervisor Tofinelli, you may want to consider making that motion, and please explain your motion one more time.
Well, I move that we do not adopt this resolution.
I'm sorry, sir. You'll need to turn on your...
Excuse me. I move that we do not adopt this resolution as presented to us today.
And I'll second that.
It's been moved by Supervisor Tofinelli,
And I'll second it.
seconded by Supervisor Platt. I'm going to go out of order here and have public comment before we vote. Can I do that? Okay. They told me I can't do that.
I agree with
Have a,
you.
have a seat. Thank you, sir. Bring it back to the board. All in favor indicate by saying...
Is that it?
We're going to be voting. It's moved and seconded. Question, council, how will that affect the previous vote we took on item number, or section number 1? Mike? God, I love saying my name.
The board did take, there was a motion, there was a second, there was an action to dissolve the ad hoc committee. If this motion is to include whether to dissolve the ad hoc committee or not, considering there was already an action, the board should consider a motion for reconsideration of that specific issue, since there was already an action taken as to the dissolution of the ad hoc committee. If this current motion is not related to the dissolution of the ad hoc committee, but is on the other subsections of this item 2 and 3, then nothing further would be needed other than a vote.
Supervisor Tofinelli?
Yes, I will amend my motion to exclude the ad hoc committee being dissolved since we've already taken a vote, but for the remaining items, it stands.
And I'll second that still.
Supervisor Platt? That will
Yeah,
not affect your second then?
I'll give
You
my
agree with the
second
motion?
still, yes.
We'll bring it back to the board for a vote.
So just, Mr. Chair,
Sure,
permission.
we'll have some discussion.
Just so I'm clear, so now we're dissolving the ad hoc, and everything else is off the table?
Yes.
You're dissolving the ad hoc, and we are actually voting on sections 3, 2, and 4. And just for clarity, Madam Clerk, would you read those sections verbatim?
Well, if that's what we're doing, I just want to make clear that we are kicking a can down the road, sticking our head in the sand any which way you guys want to talk about this. It's only going to get worse if we don't start acting proactively. I, for one, will not serve. I'm glad the ad hoc's off the table, because I'm not going to serve on a secret committee making up public policy. I thought there was an agreement. Supervisor Mills and I met. We actually signed the bottom of that in our agreement, and I'm just really disappointed to see that we're going to kick this down the road.
Comments noted, Supervisor Garamendi. Any other further comments before the vote? All in favor of Supervisor Tofinelli's motion to not approve the remaining issues on agenda item, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, indicate by saying no.
No.
Motion carries 4-1. We've already reported out, as far as supervisors reporting out. Madam Clerk, do we have any other issues before the board?
I just wanted to announce that May 9th, which is our first meeting in May, is going to be the Government Center Frog Jump. And there will be festivities here in the gazebo area, and there'll be more about that next meeting.
Any report out from staff? Thank you very much for coming, ladies and gentlemen. Meeting is adjourned.
Supervisor Garamendi, can I see you for a moment?
No.